Hey, what's up, Duckers? This is the Rowdy Texan Abroad. Getting a quick intro video again. Starting episode 3 with Lathan and George covering Monday Night Nitro, July 6th, 1998. Hogan Goldberg World Heavyweight Championship. This was one I never saw before. I was not a WCW fan, so watched it for the first time, discussed it with the boys. We appreciate y'all being here, and we'll see you on the other side.
See if you guys are afraid to admit it. But I am afraid to admit that I am a wrestling fan in public. Is that bad?
Yeah,
Are you ready?
womp womp. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Ducking Wrestling Podcast, episode 3, where we are going to be discussing Monday Night Nitro from July 6th of 1998. So, let's get it started. Let's get it going. Boys, what's up?
What up, baby?
Paradise, brother.
Oh, we got Mr. Lathan Hall over here on this side. We got Mr. J Carr, Too Hard, Too Fast, down on the bottom, the Rat King.
Hey.
Representing. Lathan and I did a episode like 2.5 where we did our predictions for Money in the Bank, and I think we came out pretty good. So we both picked Seth Rollins, which was the winner. And then we disagreed on the women's tag team match. Lathan took that one with Rodriguez.
Call that shit.
He took that one. We both agreed on Gunter retaining the title. Women's Money in the Bank, I took it with my prediction of Io Sky. The Roman Reigns Solo Sikoa versus the Usos match, I took with my pick of the Usos. Now, Lathan got one with Damian Priest in the men's Money in the Bank. And then we both selected Cody going over Condom himself. And yeah, so we're gonna try to keep this going before the pay-per-views, and keep track of everything. So right now, Lathan and I are both at 5 and 7. Guys, are y'all ready to get into July 6th, 1998? This one was interesting. This is the first time I've watched this all the way through. I was a diehard WWF fan, so I thought it was a cardinal sin to even flip channels to watch WCW.
I did the flippy flips. I flipped the channels. I like WCW because I don't know if it was what they meant to do or if it was just poor management. And now everybody says it's poor management, but I think they just wanted to be, the guys that were being wild, like we do what we want. And so I kind of liked that. But there was some matches that I was watching. I was like, oh, I don't remember this. This is probably the time I switched it back to WWE.
Yeah, there were quite a few in there that I was watching. I'm like, what is this? Like, oh. Lathan, what about you, man? Were you team WWF or were you Monday Night Nitro?
I was both. I ran back and forth. So I remember vividly at this particular point of my life, we had moved just to San Marcos, and my mom's room was right across from my room, and she had her TV where I could see directly from my door. And so I had TNT on in her room, and I had USA on in my room. And as commercials came back and forth, I would run back and forth between each TV like a cat with a catnip. It was literally the fastest, it's the fastest time I've ever moved in my life was jumping between those two TVs at that particular time, especially on Monday. So it was, I was definitely a big I was more of a WCW guy because I went to more of the shows because they had more house shows at the time in Texas and like smaller towns. But I always loved WWF at heart, particularly at that time too, because it was the war. Like, you just wanted to see what was going to happen and make sure you were there to watch it. So yeah, I was there for both of them.
Yeah,
Had my cake and ate it too.
They never neither one ever came to Kingsville. Like they'd come to Corpus, but you try convincing two parents who work full time to leave and go to Corpus on a Monday night until 10 o'clock.
You got Corpus money. Yeah. Dude, I remember, it's funny that you say that because I remember WCW used to come to Huntsville, Texas at the little Coliseum there. And like my dad would take me to all the shows, like when they came into town. I got a Sting mask at one show, one of those shitty wrestling belts at the other show. And
oh shit. Well, so we'll start off. The show again came July 6th, 1998. So we're just past, was that 25 years? In like 5 days, 7 days, something like that. At this recording, we're recording July 13th. And it doesn't feel like that long ago, but watching this back, it feels like it was a long time ago.
A different time, definitely.
So we started off the show with J.J. Dillon announcing on Thunder that Goldberg was the number one contender. At that point, he was 106-0, which has been debated to this day on whether they, adding a couple, because he had been in WCW for like 10 months at this point. So doing the math, you're figuring how many matches he had to wrestle per week for that to even out. But, we don't check facts, right? WCW, the originators.
Not too hard to pass. Oh, wait, what?
Oh, yeah. So, and they announced it on Thunder, which if my memory serves correctly, Thunder was a relatively new show, and there's lots of controversy over Thunder and, who wanted to work on it and people, coming up with excuses not to. So I found that interesting that they announced it on Thunder like 4 days before Monday Nitro. I think that was the running theme of this whole show. Was it seemed very thrown together for the Hogan Goldberg match. They didn't really think much about it. Like there's like a running storyline and whatever, we'll get into that. But so Nitro kicks off. When we have the Nitro girls, which I've kind of forgot about them, and yes, please, I'm down for it.
Never forget the Nitro girls, bro. That's the second most entertaining part about watching Monday Nitro.
Yes, but I also remember I was watching it and I'm like, oh, come on, let's just move it. Let's do some. Like my parents are coming in. They're gonna catch me watching this.
One of the things that kind of bothered me right off the bat is that the announcers were dressed in like tuxedos and suits. Like, why? You're trying to play this up. I get it. I understand it's a big night and everything, but
it's a historic night. Art.
Yeah, the night WCW decided to give away one of the biggest shows for free. Yeah, for a ratings bump. But like you're coming into this and you're supposed to be like, oh, is Goldberg gonna win? Is he gonna beat Hogan? What's gonna happen? And then you've got everybody dressed up, and throughout the show they're covering Goldberg's streak, and they're doing this and not saying a damn thing about Hogan. So it's like, gee, I wonder what's gonna happen later on. But yeah, what'd y'all think starting off?
It was a little, I didn't like, it was, is the word lackluster, like it wasn't that cool. Yeah, like starting off it wasn't that cool. It didn't, throughout the whole thing with the announcers, and we're talking about the announcers, I don't know if they're just trying to be, they're probably just trying to be funny, but they seem to be like, or they're being assholes and they're just like second guessing everything to do it. Like the thing that's coming to mind is when they're giving away the car. There's a moment where they're supposed to be giving away a car or whatever, and they're like, well, you can sign up and you can win the car, but I don't know where you're gonna use it because it's not street legal.
It's not street legal.
Why were they giving away a fucking race car? Hollywood Hogan coming out with Miss Elizabeth, and damn it, she was hot. Like, I always thought she was a beauty, like gorgeous, but damn, she was looking good. Yeah, since I wasn't a WCW fan, I was trying to figure. I was like, okay, Hogan's coming out and Macho Man's behind him with Miss Elizabeth, cool. But she was with Hogan and the Disciple, aka Brutus, the Barber Beefcake. So I was like, I don't know where Macho Man was, so I don't know. But one thing with this intro, the beginning promo, I was thinking, I'm like, wait, so this one WCW Nitro is really, there's 3 different Hogan storylines going on at one time. So you got Hogan and
What's the third one? I know there's 2.
Yeah,
Hogan.
2. I got 2.
Yeah. NWO Hollywood versus NWO Wolfpack.
Black and red. Yeah, I forgot about that one.
They were playing it up throughout the night. Thought it was weird. They had way too much Hollywood Hogan going on.
Give me the gist of it. Most Monday Nitro started out with a Hogan or NWO monologue for the first like 10 minutes, and then featured another monologue somewhere inside of the next 2 hours, and then there's a match, Swerve, and then NWO to show spray paint somebody that's the main eventer that their storyline to book with for the pay-per-view. So there you go. Nitro.
I mean, if anything, you can argue there was 4 storylines with Hogan, because since I can remember, it was always WCW run. It's WCW, but NWO dictates what happens. So it was like NWO and Hogan were always against whatever WCW was, was or is, and all that stuff.
That's a fair point. Oh, Mean Gene giving away a fucking race car. I don't know why that was the thing. I'm like, they gave away a race car? What the fuck?
See, one of the very few ththings I would want a wrestling fan to have is a race car.
That would be on the top of the list of things I don't want a wrestling fan to own.
Yeah. And I say that as a wrestling fan.
George is just looking at Lathan and I like, I don't want either one of these guys to have a race car, and we live like hours apart from each other. Like, I wonder if they sold them or gave them away.
Yeah,
like
and this is the second time they did it.
I would argue that the winner didn't even take it. They were like, I cannot afford the taxes or the insurance on this. I could barely afford the ticket to this fucking show.
Oh, I wonder if it's like Price is Right, where they say, okay, you can have the prize or you can take the cash. And that's why they gave the race car away a second time, because the first guy was like, no, give me the money.
Yeah. That's why you didn't have an answer to, like, what did you do with it? He's like,
well, put me on the spot. I don't know. I sold it and bought a bunch of Valvoline merchandise. I don't know.
I brought my whole family to the show.
Well, the next thing that we have up is actually our first match, which it seemed like it took forever to get to, like, the first match, which was Dean Malenko, the Iceman versus Booker T. I guess
which wasn't even a match, technically.
Yeah.
La Parca.
George is just naming random luchadors.
Juventud Guerrero.
I was about to say that.
Is he the one that used to call Juice?
Yes, he had a match in the back of his trunks just say Juice. And I'm like, dude. I don't want your booty juice. Oh, but you know what? It was weird to see Booker T with short hair and long tights. The Harlem Heat flat top.
Yeah. So sometimes now when I watch him with the long hair, that's a little weird to me. It looks badass, but it's weird.
I dare the nasal strip across his nose.
Yes.
Just a sleep strip, like, dude.
He probably just woke up like that one. I was like, I'm keeping it on.
Maybe he gets to the arena and he's like, "Where's my nasal strip? Oh, we forgot him. Get over to Walgreens and get me one."
Yeah. Look,
My
you're
favorite
supposed to be
clip
on
of
Nitro.
Booker
What are you
T.
at Walgreens? Had to get my strips, bro.
My favorite, obviously, is the one where my favorite clip from Booker T is the one he like accidentally says the N word, and he's like, "Oh," and he's trying to like fix it, and I don't remember who the girl was, and she's just like trying to laugh and but not laugh.
Sensational Sherry. Oh God, that's
Dude,
one.
always a good classic scene for sure.
But I'll say what really kind of annoyed me in this match was they hardly talked about the match. Like they were playing up Goldberg Hogan. I'd give it a good 70% of the commentary during this match. Like, I understand that's the main event and it's what people are there essentially to see. But dang, give these guys a little bit of chatter, about the match.
Yeah.
But so this match was kind of for nothing other than promoting Dean Malenko and Jericho.
They still gave every storyline a little bit of time to breathe since it was the go home show for the pay-per-view that's coming up Sunday. But like even now watching it back, you knew what you were going to watch Nitro for that night. Like that's why they teased it on Thunder the way they did. Everything else leading up to that point is just empty space and just filling up time. Like we're gonna get to the main event, but we gotta at least fill up these 3 hours with something until we get there. But Chris Jericho is always entertaining. Now I will say, looking back at it, remembering the Chris Jericho Dean Malenko feud at the time, the storyline, it was really entertaining.
Yeah.
The freedom that they were given, like Chris Jericho goes on to talk about it on some of his podcasts, but they were like, nobody really paid attention to the cruiserweight division, so they were kind of just given free range to do really creative things if they were given a storyline. Chris Jericho made that pop like sensationally. Like it was just funny because Dean Malenko is devoid of any emotions and charisma, and like Chris Jericho is like the polar opposite, and they made it work so easily and so remarkably awesome. So it was always good to watch Jericho on TV, and especially on WCW TV.
Yeah.
Yep. And then talking about I like the mic and drama stuff. Jericho on a mic, gold every time.
Because TNT knows drama.
All right, TNT, send us a check for that one. I mean, it wasn't a terrible match. I thought they did good. So on my ratings, I gave it a 1.63 for the match. It was two good wrestlers. They didn't get the time. The whole point of the match was to advance the Jericho Malenko storyline. So I kind of feel for Booker on that one. But I mean, overall, it wasn't terrible.
This was one of 3 storylines that actually had relevance on the show that carried over to the pay-per-view and the go-home part of the show. The rest of the show was just fillers of just people doing flippy spot junkie shit and some references to some Hall of Fame basketball players, and then Goldberg and Hulk Hogan. Not to give away the whole rest of the show, but
25 years later, yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you give it as a rating?
I gave it a 2.
Okay.
It needed more. Like it was one of those good matches that could have had if it was given more time and more care. It could have had more to it. It was entertaining, but like 2 at best.
Yep. George, what you think, man?
I think they definitely deserved more time, and it would have been a better match. Nothing memorable for me, so I'll probably just go 1.2.
Okay.
But yeah, wasted time for great wrestlers.
Absolutely. So next up we have a Karl Malone I'd kind of forgotten about the whole Hogan, Rodman, Malone, DDP.
Arthur, I just wanna piss you off a little bit. Can you read my name?
Filler wrestling is great. God damn it, George. Well, there goes our NXT sponsorship. Well,
Hey, prove me wrong.
I will if you'd ever go to a damn show with me.
All right, let's get back on track. I just wanted to piss you off a little bit.
Yeah, well, congratulations, fucker. So yeah, I kind of forgot about the Karl Malone DDP storyline, which I remember it because it was kind of in pop culture, but I don't know what started it. I don't know what anything was about it. Why Malone and Rodman? I knew that they had played in the finals in the NBA, but yeah, outside of that, I have no idea why he was on my TV.
It was cool to see. It was always cool to see Dennis Rodman on TV. It was just like you said. Like I remember, I was thinking they're going to find some way to play this up into like the NBA finals between each other over the last 2 years, because it was what was the 96, 97, and then the 97, 98 seasons where the Bulls went up against the Jazz. But they made no talk about that. They just had athletes in the ring. For what it's worth, I will give credit to both Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman at the time for at least giving some kind of attribute to trying to learn some of the wrestling moves and to try to actually give respect to the wrestling ring in their matches. But yeah, this is a whole bunch of like, this didn't need to happen. But it was fun at the time. Looking back on it, like, as an adult, I'm like, this is stupid. But like at the time, I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's Karl Malone. I have his jersey. I burned it.
Yeah.
That took a turn.
Oh man, I bought a Dennis Rodman jersey and I had a full heel turn.
So real quick, the whole Karl Malone thing. Earlier we were texting. I did not remember who he was, but then looked him up, remembered, and then watching it, I was like, oh dang, I do remember all of this. I remember all of this stuff, and I really liked Diamond Dallas Page for the longest time. I think at the time when Karl Malone was there, like I really became a big fan of Karl Malone. Like it just was like seeing somebody that came into wrestling from a whole different industry and kind of like looked like he really owned it. And now watching it again, it reminded me, and I know you're probably gonna hate this. It's reminded me of Logan Paul and Lathan Left. That's how much he hated it. But no, it's reminding me of that. Like it's like this other guy coming in from a different industry and really actually just read your notes. Oh, it's reminding me of Logan Paul. Like really, he's really like really taking it to heart or really proving himself. And I think Karl Malone was kind of doing that with like the dramatics and learning the moves kind of thing.
Yeah.
What always did get me at this time too, though, was like, or you probably didn't realize this, but like at this time, Karl Malone, one of his biggest things he likes to do is collect big rigs, right? I don't know why that's the thing anybody wants to do with money is collect some fucking big rigs, but that's his thing. He would show up week to week, him and Dallas Page, show me these big rigs, like out of nowhere. And they would just drive up to the back of the arena with these big rigs. And I'm like, why is this a thing right now? Like, but to George's point, his big rigs are equivalent to Logan Paul's primes flying out everywhere. So it was kind of entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that was, we'll get to that here in a minute because something annoyed me about that. But the next match is Canyon versus Raven.
Who's better than Canyon?
Raven rules.
Well, I mean, it's.
I don't think that was his saying, but all right.
No, I thought he was. No, what did he say? It was something like that, like very like Raven. I don't know something. I don't know. I thought that's what it was.
I think you're confusing it with O'Doyle rules.
No, I thought he said something like that where it was so like with Edgar Allan Poe and the way he would sign off.
Oh,
Yeah,
quote the Raven.
quote the Raven, nevermore.
Yeah, there you go. All stupid. Get close.
Not even close. Raven rules. God. But I didn't understand this match. So they come into the match and they're talking about how Canyon wanted to join the flock, but Raven didn't want him to. So now he's fighting him because he didn't. Canyon's fighting him because he didn't let him in to the flock. I didn't get it.
Yeah, and then they mentioned how Raven took Kidman and from the streets or something. I don't like they kind of like so he's such a nice guy or something. I don't know what they were trying to prove there.
Just like Aladdin, just street rat.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. But again, in this match, there's more Hogan Goldberg talk. Like they are completely shitting on the guys in the ring, and it's all Hogan Goldberg for another majority of it until Goth Perry Saturn comes in and ends up trying to put somebody through the wrong freaking table.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's just he clearly showed that there's a lot of disorganization when it comes to this card, and that's one of the bigger downfalls. It's just like they had no. It was always just something relevant to the NWO for the night, and then the rest of the card can just be what it is. We're not going to really put that much investment into it. No producing segments the way we should, and giving them the talent the way they need to. Everybody was just there to collect the check, and you can tell it. But like the talent still wanted to put on somewhat of a decent show. Like they had great talent, just no direction. From week to week, it was just about ratings. I remember watching or listening to Eric Bischoff talk about this time. And this goes more into why they put this match on Nitro in the first place. It was always a ratings war. Like,
yeah, George, you need to come get your boy Saturn with his eyebrow piercing and his black jorts.
hey man.
But yeah, Lathan,
I love me some Saturn, man.
Lathan,
Saturn's rings.
I remember listening to
That made me dizzy.
Somebody bring me a Domino's pizza. I remember listening to Eric Bischoff's podcast, and he does talk about like how they would like try to go to commercial like 2 minutes before Raw would, so that they could get the early numbers before Raw got them for the quarter hour ratings and all of that. So yeah, man, just a different time. But this match was trash.
The drizzling shits.
Yeah.
Call it what it is.
Yeah, I gave it half a star, and that was being generous to me.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, Art. I'm gonna be very transparent. I didn't rate any of these matches.
I'm trying to come up with the rating right now.
Do your
No,
homework.
but honestly, this one I didn't even pay attention to. Like I had started doing other stuff.
It's one of those. I watched this Nitro back a couple of times, and it was fun to watch it because one time I watched it with Junior, and he was like, "Oh, who is that? And who is that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's Chris Jericho." And like he saw, of course, familiar face there, still around today, which makes me feel really old as shit. But at the same time, like it was kind of like I couldn't really express to him like what was really going on because I didn't know what was going on. Like I try to remember most of these storylines and try to keep up with them. This is one of those episodes where I don't know what the fuck's going on. I just know that like Karl Malone is tag team with DDP or DPP or something. It was
Yeah, you know
Hogan.
me.
Yeah. And then like there's Chris Jericho with his wild hair and doing something to trigger somebody and troll somebody. And then there's Goldberg's like well, I used to call him Stone Cold Steve Austin Light. But you know, you got him rampaging all over the rest of the mid card, and of course the Giant still sucks and he's a waste of space and talent. But you know, this is just one of those things. Like it was as fun, as entertaining as it was, but it was just disorganized for entertainment at
All
this
right,
point.
but you watched. Give me a rating.
I'll be generous. 1.5.
That is generous, George.
I'll go 1, 2, but because I really used to like Raven,
Wait, you're gonna
even
go.
though I couldn't quote him correctly, but I did like Raven.
You're gonna go 1, 2, or you're gonna go 1.
This one.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, 1 all. All right. So the next thing that comes up was a limo pulling up, and we get Judy and Buff Bagwell coming out. And I
Buff
was
Bagwell or Buffs Bagwell?
well, that's been a great night, everybody. Was this the legit injury where Scott Steiner almost killed him?
Rick Steiner, and yes.
Oh, Rick Steiner. Okay, yeah.
Oh, it was a real injury?
Yeah. So it was
Oh,
like
okay.
basically a couple of weeks before this, George, Rick Steiner gave him bulldog from the top rope, but didn't get enough of a grip on his head, so his head slipped out and actually whiplashed back off of his neck as he's coming down. So he had like popped 2 or 3 vertebrae that almost left him paralyzed.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
And I remember they mentioned it, like they were like, when so where you almost died or you almost whatever, and I was like, okay, cool, exaggerating. Dang. Well, I just thought it was part of the show, WCW trying to be wild.
Wild. So
Fucking giving away race cars.
we're giving away race cars and neck injuries.
Bow, da, bow, bow. For life.
Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Oh shit. oh, memories.
Well, the next thing is what we were talking about a little while ago was the damn 18-wheeler pulling up, and what I thought was really funny. There are 2 things. So they show the whole NWO getting all of their weapons, right? And Bret Hart standing there, and he's the only one in the group not wearing an NWO shirt. He's wearing a Hollywood Hogan shirt, which I thought was weird.
Well, hold on. He was never technically part of the Black and White. He was an affiliate, never actual honorary member. So that's why he was dick riding Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
I guess.
All right. So that answers my
And
question.
then every time I've watched, because I've watched other WCWs on the Peacock Network, pay us. It always seems like he was like not interested in anything that's going on with NWO. Well, no, let me say that. He looked like he was not interested with anything that was going on in WCW, and completely disassociated with NWO stuff. Like he was just like, "Fuck, I gotta be here."
Yeah. Thing they could do with him is just throw him in as an associate of the NWO at the time, which only left him in the background, just like all these other really good mid-card wrestlers that should have deserved better, like Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude and Macho Man.
If you say Vincent, I'm gonna come through this computer and smack you.
Well, I'm not going to say Vincent now.
Well,
He's still just.
So they give the NWO all these weapons, right? These pipes and crowbars and all of this. And then they run out to the parking lot and they're waiting there. Hogan comes out to the ring and is talking shit and all of this. And then like the 18-wheeler pulls up and it stops. And the NWO is like, yeah, yeah. And then the 18-wheeler like jerks forward a little bit. And like everybody's like, run away. And they all scatter. Like, what is the point of it? Like, it's not, they didn't even try to make it look like the 18-wheeler was going to do anything. It almost seemed like the guy who was driving it like shifted wrong, so it kind of fell into gear, and just all WO just scattered.
This is stupid.
So
well,
yeah,
and then
they're showing them talking in the ring and saying like, oh, they're not even here, they didn't show up, and then they show up, bang some chairs, and then bang some heads.
And then
I'm the Magnum ladies. No, I'm just kidding.
and then
I was surprised though that Dennis Rodman didn't show up for this Nitro because I was like, well, Karl Malone's here. Why
Yeah,
isn't
hype
Dennis
it up.
Rodman here? I would think he would. Yeah,
yeah, the
especially
go
for
home.
it being the last. Yeah, it's the go home show, so everybody's usually on deck for something. But then again, think about it. It's Dennis Rodman in the '90s, so he has so many different reasons not to be there. Drug habits, gambling habits, Carmen Electra, or Pam Anderson. I don't forget which one at this point. Madonna, somebody.
Or did he marry himself?
North
He
Korea.
could have been on his honeymoon. He could have
So-
been on his honeymoon with himself.
Well, so the next thing up is Mean Gene doing an interview with DDP and Malone in the ring. And I thought it was weird how they do that like spinning thing. Like they would get back to back and then spin around.
Oh, I like that.
Hey, like
I-
people flipping.
Yeah. The people love that.
I didn't get the point of it.
Feel the bang.
Did you notice that Karl Malone says I'm gonna whoop you like Madonna should have, and Mean Gene was like, okay, all right.
That's what he said. I was listening. I rewinded it like multiple times. I don't know how many times. Because to me, it sounded like he said, like my daughter should have. And I
Right.
was like, what? What's going on here, man?
I had to rewind it one time, and I was like, and I put closed caption on the TV, and it's like Madonna should have, and I was like, oh, but Mean Gene real quick got the mic away from him. I was like, damn, Karl Malone wild, and then he's like, no, I'm serious, I'm gonna whoop you, boy. Like,
We don't talk about Madonna that way.
it got real uncomfortable, like for a minute there, and then Mean Gene's like, "Oh, okay, well, we're gonna go to the next match that doesn't mean shit to anything with Scott Putski versus Riggs." That now this is kind of the first match. Well, no, so the next thing actually up was the Mongo McMichael. I don't know what the point was because he had been in WCW for a long time.
I forget he was still relevant at this point because then this is after the Four Horsemen, and this is after the whole Deborah McMichael thing, and Jeff Jarrett's back in WWF at this point.
I thought it was really weird because they interviewed Mike Ditka about him, and, and the first thing that came to my mind watching it, I was like, Vince McMahon looks like Mike Ditka did in 1998. With the mustache and like the dark hair and like,
oh yeah, you got listen. It's experimental phase. You got to do it at least one time, man.
I can't grow a mustache. It comes in like a little. Well, I can't grow mostly any facial hair, but the mustache comes very weird.
George, that's bullshit. You're a Mexican, not a Mexicans.
Yeah, so it grows like this, like it grows like over here, like this, like fucking Cantinflas. It's like the two borders don't want to meet. It's like they build a wall in between.
Oh wow.
Oh, this just I thought we were a wrestling podcast.
So now finally the next match we have is Scott Putski versus Riggs. Who?
Yeah, let's go ahead and spend as much time as we should have watched this on this one. 0.5.
0.986.
0.789.
The only thing I got out of this was that Scott Putski was Ivan Putski's son, and he did the Polish Hammer.
Yeah, and something called the Plotsky bomb, which something like that, and then he didn't even pin him. He landed and then just sat with them, like didn't even like bother to like at least put a hand over, and like at least imitate like a pin. Nothing. He's just like the guy could have just gone, like he could have just coughed and pin himself out, like kicked out of it. But
trash,
yeah,
trash. But we go to Goldberg again with another. Like they're showing him warm up, and I'm starting to get concerned because we're like 45 minutes in, and he keeps warming up. Like there's one point he's doing push-ups between chairs, and I'm like, dude, that's too much for a warm up. That's not a warm up. Like too much.
Everything is too much, but it's just enough.
yeah. I was concerned because I looked away for a second. I don't know what I was doing, and all I hear is. And I was like, "Oh, what is going on? Am I still watching wrestling?"
Thinking,
this is not the Nitro I was watching. This is not the Nitro I was watching.
Those are the moments when your parents would walk in, not like the great matches. They would walk into the.
Yeah, my mom just from her bedroom go, ¿Qué estás mirando? What are you watching?
Oh man!
But and then the next part, like the next warm up, is him banging his head into the fucking door.
I'm like, how's this guy TT not kicked in yet? Because he's done a lot of head banging over the decades. George, watching this back or arc too, do y'all remember trying to play the guessing game on who the first opponent was supposed to be for Goldberg before Hulk Hogan was supposed to wrestle him for the night?
I didn't.
Yeah, because I did not remember, and so I did not know who it was going to be. So yeah, the whole time I was like, okay, it has to be somebody huge, like somebody like the Giant or somebody. Like it has to be somebody that we don't even know, maybe a newcomer.
At first I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, it's maybe Nash, because I wasn't thinking about the Wolfpack at the time. I was like, maybe it's Nash, maybe it's Luger, thinking something like that. And when Scott Hall got out of the car and he had the empty drink and put it on the roof, I was like, oh no.
I'm back, bitches.
And I was like, oh no, is this? Then I started thinking back, and I'm like, is this the time when he was doing the fake drunk sober Scott Hall, or was this the real drunk fake sober Scott Hall? Or
this is art imitating life Scott Hall. But no, I was like, it was one of those that, like, I remember at the time I was like, okay, who could it be? Who could it be? I was thinking like Macho Man was going to come back because he was actually out with injury at this time, so that's why he wasn't on TV. And then like you were going down the list of who could it possibly be, but like Scott Hall was a surprise to see him because he ain't seen him in so long, and so it was just good to see him back on TV. Now, looking back as an adult, with extra can of beer coming out of the car, that's first of all that's upper container. So hopefully you didn't get pulled over on the way over here.
But it was a limo.
Legal in a limo. I found that out when we went to Disney World last fall because I was like, damn, I'm gonna spring for us to get a limo from the airport to the hotel. And I looked it up, and yeah, it's legal to drink in a limo.
Hey, you mind if I drink this beer in here?
Shot.
You mind if I drink this vodka in here?
Drink the
what? Sir, did you say that with an R? A hard R.
Oh shit!
Do you want it to be a hard R?
Play your cards right. The R won't be the only thing hard in this car. Oh, wrestling podcast.
Woo! So
we'll go on with that. With the whole, is this drunk or sober Scott Hall? Somebody in the back as they're walking in, somebody in the back goes, "How do you feel?"
I didn't catch
that. Too sweet. But really, how do you feel?
I have to go back and watch
Oh,
that part
man.
now.
A moment of silence for Scuttle Hall.
Oh yeah. Well, the next match I was actually really looking forward to, but it turned into just trash because it was Chris Jericho versus Ultimo Dragon. I really thought like, oh, this is going to be a good match. Like,
Like every cruiserweight match at the time
yeah,
for WCW.
yeah, I thought it was going to be really good. And Jericho coming out and doing the Monday Night Jericho, like I kind of forgot because I got used to Raw is Jericho. And so that was kind of a nice little thing, but it kind of bothered me. Like the inconsistency of this show kind of got to me. So JJ Dillon comes out and Jericho is like, he's talking shit that he's going to defend against Rey Mysterio. He's not going to defend against Dean Malenko. JJ Dillon comes out and lays down the law like, no, you are contractually obligated, and that wasn't Rey Mysterio. And he's like, it was Rey Mysterio Jr. I guess he brought out like a wrestled the week before.
The
A
micro
little
wrestler.
person.
Brought out a little person the week before to dressed as Rey Mysterio to wrestle. But I started thinking, I'm like, okay, JJ Dillon on Thursday announces that Hogan will defend against Goldberg, right? Well, then Hogan comes out and says, well, Goldberg has to beat one of my NWO brothers. So he just makes a match out of nowhere and nobody says a word. But all of a sudden, JJ Dillon got him some balls telling Jericho, like, no, you're not making this match. You're not doing this. I am. It's like, dude, pick a lane. Like,
Well, Jericho's not Hogan, so.
Listen, it's a cruiserweight. They're children. Listen, you can talk to adults like you talk to children.
all right, fair point. JJ Dillon's like, well, I'm not having any of this.
Yeah. Listen, one of those two
Just
people
walking out like that too?
have character control over how they are presented on TV. So, and the other one is holding the cruiserweight title.
Okay, fair point on that. But I will say that like the crowd was digging the story with Jericho and Malenko. Like they were kind of into it, which made me feel even worse for how much like WCW just didn't really care about the cruiserweights, and they gave them free reign, which hindsight's it was good because the storytelling, the matches were good, but they gave them such little time that it kind of, I don't know, it kind of made it meh.
They deserve better, and that's kind of one of the reasons why like they shined a little bit more when they got to WWF, because they had learned how to put themselves over so well in WCW because they didn't have anybody to really tie them down or really muffle their creative ideas, but they were only given so much time. Where with WWE, like you could tell with Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, when they first got over to WWE, they were utilized a lot more functionally for what they actually were talented for. Instead of just being put to the wayside, they were actually given respect, accommodations to actually go out there and entertain the crowd the way they know how to through their technical wrestling and through telling the story in the ring. Like you can tell it's 9 day difference, like overall creatively. But yeah, I hated how WCW always treated the cruiserweights. Like they spent all this money to bring them in just to make them the redheaded stepchild of the show.
The restroom break matches.
As Kevin Nash used to say.
Yeah.
I think even then, right now, it's like barely, like they're barely actually getting the notice that they deserve. Like they've done better, but I think it's now, right now, that where they're actually, and then everybody else is taking notice and trying to do the same moves, like the hurricanranas and flying over the top rope and the flips and all that. So like now you see it a lot more, you know.
Yeah, I think the
WCW completely trashed it. Like it was, like I said, the rescue matches.
I think WCW and what their legacy will be outside of kind of giving way too much power to some of the top players is the influence that the cruiserweights and smaller wrestlers had on like current guys. You look at Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, guys like that who can wrestle in a style that is very similar to a cruiserweight, but they're a lot bigger than most of the guys were then. So I think that the influence is still felt today, 20 something years, 25 plus years later, and even before 98. I mean, we're talking back in like 97, 96 when people were first starting to come in, even down to ECW when Rey Mysterio was there and Eddie was there, Dean Malenko was there, Jericho was there, started influencing more, which runs through the current crop of performers today.
You know what I thought when I was a kid, and this is my perception of it. I always thought that the cruiserweight name was implemented as, oh, where are we gonna put these Mexicans in? Like I always thought that was like, well, let's just make them cruiserweights.
A cruiserweight.
But yeah, that's what I always thought. Like that was honestly a thought. That was like they made that I'm obviously like a little bit out of the wrestling world. Like you guys were in it before I was, so I don't know if that title already existed before that. But that's just something I noticed. I was like, oh, there's a lot of like the Spanish wrestlers or Spanish named wrestlers, and I don't know if they were all Mexicans, but
Yeah, most of them. He had some come over from New Japan too, because that's where Ultimate Dragon came in from. He had just won the New Japan tournament. That's where he had the belt collector. We had like Sonny Ono used to come out with like 15 gajillion belts with different Japanese designs on them. I don't know if you remember that when he first arrived in WCW, but I did hate this. It wasn't their best match that they put on a card before, but like they were basically told, hey, you got like 3 minutes, go do something real quick and hurry back.
And it was pretty good for what it was. Like for just having that, it was all right. Those two guys, again, another two guys that were wasted. A match that was wasted with, could have been wasted. Really good.
Oh, sorry. So I gave that match a 2-star. I would have given it more, but I think the shenanigans with Dean Malenko kind of, ruined the flow of it. And if they had gotten more time, I think that would have been a much better match.
Yeah, gave it a 2.5. It was interesting. I remember it more at the time. You said the Dean Malenko storyline took away from it. I was more enjoying the storyline that they were building up and continuing it through the night. And so they kind of made it work even better for me as far as them at least having this continuity going on. And their storyline leading into the next pay-per-view. Because across the board, like it was entertaining week to week. Like their storyline had so much build. It got kind of dark for a second there with Jericho making some references to his mom and her tryst and his dad. And it was really interesting because his dad had just recently died, but they allowed it to play into the storyline and bleed into some kind of real life reality. And so I thought that was kind of cool that they could do that at that time too. So
I think I went to just a 2. Could have been better. It would have been better. I'm a Jericho fan, but since you brought that up about with Dean Malenko, I was thinking like, man, is that true? Like, even when he went as far as like his brother not looking like him, like
they don't look like it all in real life.
But are they real brothers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
he actually he does have a brother, but like it was at the time Chris Jericho was making reference to his mom being a woman of ill repute of some sort.
Okay. Because then I was thinking like if that's like a real thing where
or just what I'm trying to
Well,
say.
that's what I was thinking. Like if that was a real thing, man, like how do you like Dean Malenko to let that play out? Like, man, you really like your career, or you really don't have a choice. Like, and you never know. I never know with this stuff. Like sometimes it's like, are they, because it gets really close to some real stuff, and it's like, hey, do the wrestlers allow it, or do they just not have a choice?
And I think that's a big testament to wrestling itself, because if it can suspend that moment of belief, that give you that, like, where you're questioning whether it's really happening or not. Hey, is this supposed to happen? Is this, I think that's where wrestling itself wins.
Yeah, and my thoughts, like, I've always felt like Jericho is a stand-up guy. He's at least, like, I don't know him, but he's no CM Punk. But so I would think like he would only say stuff that he knows is okay to say, but it's still like crossing the line. But like he wouldn't say something to piss somebody off without getting the okay.
But with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be back with the next few matches.
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
And we are back from our commercial break. We want to thank I call him a sponsor, but he's not a sponsor. He doesn't give a shit other than his dumb opinions. So thank you for Too Hard, Too Fast, or Too Fast, Too Hard.
Too Hard, Too Fast. I wasn't aware that I'm a sponsor again. Did you just take that out of my bank account?
Yeah, we auto draft without your knowledge, so it's fine.
Fair enough.
There we go.
Your wife just Venmoed us basically, so it is what it is.
Yeah. I just come in and take a little bit out at a time. Little bit for George, little bit for Daddy.
One for you, one for me. Two for you, 1, 2 for me.
All right. So the next match that was up is another one of those Johnny Swinger. So I had to look him up because I'm thinking, okay, Johnny Swinger has to be like the early incarnation of like somebody else. No.
Johnny Swinger.
Yeah, fucking Johnny Swinger. That's who and what he is, versus Chavo Guerrero Jr.
It was the 90s, baby.
Yeah.
Pineapple.
Yeah. and Chavo coming out with a hard hat on, which I guess Eddie cut his hair was the whole thing for it, and he decided that a hard hat would be the best way to cover that up.
Yeah, which Eddie wasn't even in the building anyway, so why would you even? Why?
Yeah, it was weird.
I know you're at home and watching this.
It was like Chavo was probably the most awkwardly produced character at the time, because I remember there was this angle he was doing with Eddie at the time. I remember Chavo back at this time in WCW, like they always had him set up with some kind of weird prop and gimmick to kind of get him over. And there was a part of me used to always think, like, is he doing this himself, or is he really enjoying this really luxurious contracts from Time Warner that he'll just go ahead and put up with anything at this point?
It wasn't Time Warner at the time, was it?
Not Time Warner.
TNT.
But no. Yeah, but it was
no, because Turner merged with Time
Warner
later on, and AOL Time Warner took over, and that's supposedly from Kevin Nash said. So I made a note. My first note on this match just goes, sigh. It really felt like all of the matches so far outside of Jericho and Malenko were just filler. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we know where we're starting. We know where we want to finish the night. So, bleh, like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of farting out a bunch of matches that really don't make a whole lot of sense. And they more Goldberg Hogan talk throughout this match.
Yeah. Exactly what it was. It was just a 3-hour spectacle.
I wonder if you put a camera in the back on the Disciple or Brutus Beefcake, whatever you want to call him, when Chavo started cutting his hair, if that dude was like,
he stole my gimmick.
how can he do it here and I can't?
You call
You know,
that
speaking of a camera in the
Get my
back,
shears.
like nowadays, like where it really is just like, of course they're gonna cut to the back, but I feel like back then, like cutting to the back was like, whoa, what's going on back there? So
Yeah.
that's why I always thought like Goldberg's entrance and persona was so badass because it was like the cut to the back.
Yeah.
And you see what Goldberg's doing.
Yeah, which again, like that was kind of the next thing. It was like more Goldberg, and I think this is where he like hits his head on the locker, but he's like some of the stuff he's doing. Look, I mean, I played sports, I did, all of that and training and everything, and I can't remember a single coach of mine or trainer that would have been like, hey, what you need to do here is you're getting ready to have an athletic event that's going to push your body to the limits. You should really throw your arms around all random and do in the air push-ups and slam your head into shit. That's going to get it going.
I don't know. My coaches would smack the shit out of me from on the helmet, like not just me, like everybody. I wasn't like the punching bag.
But here's the difference, though.
Like
Their
I was
head
like,
is not
hey.
an actual locker.
Right.
Well, no, not like that. But it's like, oh, I'm wearing the helmet, and it happened to everybody. And it's like,
Oh, yeah.
great play, kid. Wow. Like, oh,
Yeah,
Oh,
that was part of it back then. So when you did something good, coach would hit you in the head and like good play. And when you did something bad, they'd grab you by the face mask and twist you around while, telling you what you did wrong.
Oh yeah. Just standing there with your arms to the side, just and Goldberg did both of those things. He fucking what?
George, that was a very good D'Lo Brown impression you just did right there.
Ooh, I love me some D'Lo Brown, baby.
Ah, my neck. Oh man, I don't even want to talk about the next match. Disco Inferno and Alex Wright versus Public Enemy. Well, first
And
off,
some random guy.
well, so first off, the Johnny Swinger Chavo Guerrero, I gave a 0.23 star to because Psy was my go-to on that. What'd y'all think?
I'm not gonna rate it. I'm not. I can't.
You gotta rate it. Gotta
I
rate it.
can't rate it. I can't rate it.
Gotta rate it.
I can't rate it. 0.01.
There we go. George?
It's gonna be a 2.1, but with a negative at the beginning.
Oh, I'm gonna have
Man,
to
breaking that shit out. Okay.
And I'm gonna use this word, chafa. What does that mean? If you're Mexican, you know what that means. It means cheap
Ah,
shit.
okay.
or lame or whatever. It probably means a lot of things, but
I was gonna say, so that's not a literal like Spanish translation. That's like
yeah, it could be anything. But it sucked.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like when he's cutting his hair, he like gets the tip and he like throws them off and he grabs another. I was like, dude, I think the first one was enough.
Yeah.
And this guy's a jobber, clearly. I don't think he signed up for his hair to get like just completely mutilated.
All right, Chavo, we got your point. You don't need
Yeah.
This is for you, Eddie. I know you're watching at home.
Oh, but the next match, Disco Inferno with Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, Alex Wright versus Public Enemy. I never liked Public Enemy. Like, I just thought they were. I always looked at Public Enemy like the kind of dollar store version of the Dudleys.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Were the Dudleys already around?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
They were in
okay.
ECW. That's
Yeah.
why nobody knew about it.
Oh, okay. But yeah, when they came out, I was like, yeah, this is the Dudleys.
It was like it was like somebody farted out a turd sandwich that kind of combined the Dudleys with the later on oddities.
They were doing it before it was cool.
It was
Yeah.
not cool.
It was not cool.
Yeah, it did one of the Public Enemy guys die? Not in the
Rocco
match.
Rock. Rocco Rock. Well, he died back in, I think, 2003 or 2004.
WWF tried to copy the cruiserweights with the light heavyweights, and they did it pretty badly.
Horrible.
WCW tried to copy the hardcore stuff, and they did it even worse.
Do we have to talk about it?
Yeah, and we have to rate it.
Oh man. So I'm always a big fan of Disco Inferno and Alex Wright. Like, they're just stupid. Just fucking stupid, but it's hilariously stupid. Like, these just two dancing fools. So it was the entrances were always entertaining, and I used to always catch myself doing a little disco dance. I can never get the German dancing down though. It was always
I can't either. Like, I was doing that, and it looked like I was like, have you ever seen Hot Tub Time Machine 2?
Yeah.
Where they do the strut, and it's like you look like you're picking dicks off a dick tree.
Oh, it's horrible. It was I don't remember watching this match. Actually, come to think about it, I think both times I sat down to try to watch this, I got called to do something else. And I think that was the good Lord and Savior Jesus Christ telling me that you can do so much more with your time than watch this shit again.
You can be better, Lathan.
But I'm pretty sure if without it having any other detail outside Public Enemy being in the match, somebody went through one of those terrible tables they used to carry to the ringside.
Yep.
And it was probably one of them. But
No,
nobody else.
It was what was his name? Tokyo, like some random Japanese guy came out with them and like got put through a couple of tables.
Oh, Tokyo Sky, or was it Tokyo Sky?
No.
Oh my god. Okay, so somebody went through the table.
Yeah, it was the random guy who got put through the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because I like Disco Inferno and I liked Alex Wright, I gave it a 0.019.
I give 2 stars just on the dancing entrance.
George?
I would give it maybe a 0.57. But I did like Disco Inferno. I like Disco Inferno. I don't remember Alex Wright, but I do remember his dance. Like, I remember that when he started doing that, I was like, okay, I've seen this before, and that's it.
I used to play as him on WCW NWO Revenge. He would just walk out all stiff, and then he'd do the
dance. Yeah, that was his taunt. He just kept on doing it during the match.
And I think, you know why I only give it a 0.57, whatever it was because there was no, and it's, but it's because there was no context. I have no idea why they're having these fights or these matches. There. I mean, but I wonder if we would have watched it like back in the day. We watched it last Monday, and they had a feud, and that's why they're having. I wonder if that's, but maybe not.
So George, they literally just put them in a tag team. That's all this was. And it was just another tag team match with these two dancing fools.
Yeah, and as I was saying that, like I remember, like as I was just spewing vomit out of my mouth, I was thinking, most of the matches on Monday Night Nitro had no real reason for happening. They were just happening.
Tokyo Magnum.
Wait, what? That sounds like a condom.
That was his name. No, if your first part is Tokyo, you don't need Magnum.
That's more of an ironic condom at that point.
I almost just spit everything.
All right, so next up we have the awkward Buff
New
Bagwell
World
in a wheelchair interview. It was weird, like with Judy back, like they just wheel him out and he keeps talking about with Scott Steiner. He's
I know
like,
he could have just gone down the ramp. It would have been a lot easier, faster too, instead of
Yeah.
coming through the side. It's like
Right, just-
the ramp would have helped you along the way.
I don't know if Judy would have been able to hold him as like,
Oh my god!
put the brakes on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a very awkward interview to me. Like it just seemed like he kept talking about how Rick was going his way and he was going to go his. I don't understand the whole point of it. I guess just to let people know he didn't die, or that he almost died twice, because they said that multiple times.
The Scott Steiner, Buff Bagwell, Rick feud, it was always weird to me how they always spliced them together. Like I got Rick and Scott Steiner going head to head, and like Buff has always been that extra annoying voice in the background. But then they always try to do a swerve for the sake of a swerve with actually no ramifications. Like there's been a couple other matches that they had where like it turned into a bunch of like you were left with more questions than answers, and all of them started with "what the fuck." And so I was like, "This is weird." And it's always been like it's weird how they also always push Buff Bagwell into putting a microphone in front of his face, but never actually had charisma to get over when they actually opened his mouth. Like it was horrible. Had no mic skills. Didn't brush up on him. It was just he's good for an accessory, not good for the voice.
Right.
Like yeah, he's the sidekick.
I was a Buff Bagwell fan. I liked him.
Oh no, I definitely enjoyed him in the ring. I just never liked hearing him actually talk.
See, I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember any of his matches probably, but I just liked him. I liked seeing him around because he's a pretty face. Buff Bagwell or Buff's Bagwell, he's got a pretty face, man. He got a pretty face.
George, you would have enjoyed his second
because I'm Buff and I'm still the stuff.
And I'm too fast, too
hard, too fast, and I almost died twice. I almost died twice in this fucking podcast. All right, let's rate the match.
All right, well, the next match is actually finally we have a match that means something to the show. So we have Goldberg versus Scott Hall, and if Goldberg loses, then he doesn't get to face Hogan later on the night. So Goldberg, United States champion, coming out, more hype. They're given more hype for the Hogan Goldberg match, which I found really weird because if Goldberg loses, there is no match, but they're still hyping that match up. So at any point, am I supposed to believe that Goldberg is not going to win this one?
I mean, this is not the way to end the streak, right?
No, that would be weird.
Well, especially after they had already, there's no way to Scott Hall was probably going to be the match. Once we saw him coming out of that limo with the fake drink, it was pretty much that was going to be the competitor. At least that's what I took away from that. So then I was thinking, oh, he's going to win the match.
No, definitely. There was no way that he wasn't going to walk away winning this match. Like it was just, but I tried to think about it when I was like 14 watching it for the first time, and I was like, oh man, it's actually a possibility because I'm a big Scott Hall fan that Bill Goldberg won't get through Scott Hall. And then I look at it back now, 38 years old. I'm like, there was no fucking way that this was going to happen. That you're going to end the streak this quick without a title attached to it. It was just extra. It was more filler for the show. And it, like, for what the match was worth, this is one of the very few I actually paid attention to. It was like, this was just as awkward as his match with William Regal to a certain extent.
Yeah.
This exposed a lot of Goldberg for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. And so, but like, it was cool because like you see how Scott Hall kind of played him up to still get around track to not show his frustrations with some of the missed spots in the match. Which goes to just show how great Scott Hall is as a performer and as an entertainer. Can have a good match with a bucket of water if you wanted to.
Yeah.
No,
So-
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking throughout the whole match. Was like, this match is so good, but it's so good because of Scott Hall.
Yeah, and one of the things too I want to ask. So everybody always talks about like their Mount Rushmore, which is always the same people. It's, you know, Hogan, Austin, Rock, Taker, whatever, right? Who would be on your Mount Rushmore? 4 people, Mount Rushmore of guys who never held a world championship. Would Scott Hall be on there?
Oh, automatically.
But for
off.
sure, I don't know who did not hold the title, or hold the title. So I wouldn't be able to answer that correctly. Definitely Scott Hall is one of those people that like are so badass, but you forget that they were badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Scott Hall's
And it's wrong that we forget that he was badass.
yeah, I think Scott Hall's story as far as his demons and stuff kind of overshadows his career, sadly. But I mean, he's one of the greatest performers of all time to never hold a championship. I mean, I put him up there technically with Andre the Giant. Is Andre the
that.
Giant?
I never watched him wrestle, so I don't have an opinion on that.
Fair enough.
Fair.
Kind of going off of what George was saying, man, Goldberg just isn't good.
He's granted goose shit right now.
I don't think that's what I said. But if it's Goldberg and Scott Hall, yeah, Scott Hall's way better.
Man, like watching the match and stuff, I don't know if you chalk it up to him being, he's 10 months in.
It's just an experience, right? Like, it's just, listen, he's a big Hoss McGraw. It's who was I listening to earlier? He made the perfect analogy to him. He's basically WCW's Ultimate Warrior. Like, you kind of just push him. You don't give him a long match because you know it'll expose his flaws. He gets gassed really quickly. But if you can give him like 2 to 3 minutes, he can give you one of the best, most entertaining spectacles in the world. The Fiend versus
I don't need to
Goldberg.
say anything.
We
We all know what we're thinking.
We all
Yeah.
know.
Too hard, too fast. Sweet.
Live.
Oh man.
So
But yeah,
what-
it was
all right, so let's rate this match. I'm gonna let George
2.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm gonna let George go second now. So
Well, I'm surprised with the 2.5. I honestly enjoyed it. So I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go 3.5.
oh dang. Okay.
I enjoyed it a lot because from what I remember, like it was always like spear, jackhammer, done.
Yeah.
And this was like a little more like a little
And the crowd
more
was
of a
into
match.
it. That's the one big thing that helped out with making sure that this got over. Was like the crowd was all the way into this match, even though Goldberg sucked. And so if you can still pull off that kind of electricity, like
There was some suspense to it. There was some suspense to it.
Well, so I gave it a 2.76. And I completely agree with y'all. It was a pretty quick match, which you're not going to find, an Iron Man match with Goldberg involved in it. Goldberg got exposed in this with some stuff from Hall, and I don't think on purpose. I think Hall was legit trying to have a good match, and Goldberg was just green and kind of botchy. But I mean, overall, I didn't mind it. It kind of fed into everything. It kind of made it almost feel like a real fight. Like some of the stuff where it's like, Hall whipping him back and Goldberg clotheslining him awkwardly almost felt like, fuck you, I'm gonna really hit you on this one. And so I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good match. Next up was another one that when it started, when the guys came out, I was like, oh, this is gonna be
Wait, before we move on, sorry. I have to why was Scott Hall wearing the red NWO? Like that threw me off. Like
always
that's always been his colors. Even through black and through NWO black and white and Wolfpack, he's always worn black and red.
Until NWO 2002, he wore the white.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
I like that one.
I just thought, I was thinking, is this where, because isn't that later after this I don't know if you guys know, but after this event or the show, like Hogan went after Scott Hall, you should have done your job or whatever it was, something like that.
Yeah,
that's what I remember.
It was I think that was the next. I think that was either Thursday night. No, because nobody worked Sunday at that time. So it was probably Monday again. The next Monday, they made some reference to Scott Hall kind of being eventually exiled because of his demons, and then also him not doing his part to make sure that Hulk Hogan still stayed on top, type of thing.
So that's what I was thinking. Maybe was this indicating that he was joining the Wolfpack or whatever?
Yeah, I think it eventually went away because he had started that whole drunk storyline at that time too, where he was actually coming out vomiting on Eric Bischoff and stuff.
Yeah. Oh dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well, I was really excited for the next match that came up because the two guys I knew could put on a great match. We had Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera.
Hoovy Juice.
The juice. But yeah, this was another one that,
well, in that case, I always thought Psychosis and Juventud were the same person when they were wearing masks.
Right.
That's a fair point. I mean, you can't even the whole match. It was more NWO talk, and it just.
Oh yeah, they did not even pay any attention to what was going on in the ring.
Right. It was
listen, it's just safe to say, just when the cruiserweight comes out, put the TV on mute and just enjoy the match.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because it was they're talking about Hogan, they're talking about Goldberg, and it's the Hoovy driver. Oh, I bet we're gonna see the 450 splash. So anyway, Goldberg,
oh man, it was wild. I remember at the time Mike Tenay was supposed to be his role specifically as a commentator was to give insight to the international wrestlers and keep the audience informed that way about who they did know from these people that were working in AAA and New Japan that were coming into WCW as cruiserweights. But this night was fuck all that. Let's just talk about Goldberg and Hulk Hogan. Actually give him the title tonight.
Yeah, there was no mystery on that. But the match wasn't bad. They got just a couple of minutes, but they made the most of it. I gave it a 2-star.
Yeah. It was about 2.5 stars for me. I like to get entertained by the luchadors. They were really good at that time. And I was always a huge fan of both Juventud Guerrera and Psychosis especially. So I could always watch them go back and forth all day. Throw Rey Mysterio in there and I'm set. But yeah, man, it was a good match, just not enough time.
I'm curious because I know this is the stuff George loved. These are his people. So what was your thought?
Hey, baby, let me tell you. No, honestly, I don't know if I was if I would have watched it as a kid, or if I don't know if I did. I must have watched it as a kid, or maybe I had switched it to WWE, WWF at the time. This is probably one of those matches, unfortunately. But if I did watch it, and even now, I know that it was pretty good, but it wasn't much. So I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna split the in between and go 2.3. I was always a Juventud fan. Always.
The juice.
Hey, give me that juice, baby. And Psychosis was always weird. Like the name Psychosis was weird to me always. I don't know why. I was like, you ain't Mexican. No, but 2.3. And the match was all nowadays. Now that I watched it, I was like, I'm gonna go to the restroom for this match.
Next, we got a Bash at the Beach promo, which feels like it's a really weird concept for this Monday, because normally this should be like the go home.
Arthur, let's do a Bash at the Beach podcast episode, just so I can have a reason to buy the cutoff. I just need a reason to buy the cutoff.
Done.
So I can be like, Lathan, you ain't the only one, but don't show yours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if we want that. I don't. George,
I'll be looking like a cruiserweight real quick.
Yes,
I'll put on my pit vipers and have a blonde mohawk for that episode.
yes.
Bring out my old school Sting motif.
Hey, don't make promises you can't keep. Well, yeah, so they do a Bash at the Beach promo, which like it's this Monday Nitro is really weird because this should be the go home show for Bash at the Beach. And it's not. Like it's kind of Bash at the Beach is an afterthought because of how heavy they're playing up Goldberg versus Hogan. All right, so next up was a match that I got so hyped up for. As soon as the music started, I was writing something down, the music started, and I was like, fucking Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus
the Giant. Oh, dude, this was match of the night.
Oh man, Hacksaw. Why does Hacksaw Jim Duggan look the exact same as he has for the last 40 years?
You know, it's funny.
He never got old because he was always old.
I didn't realize that Hacksaw Jim Duggan was in WCW. I thought like he left WWE, WWF, and I thought he just retired. I didn't know he.
No, he was part of the group that Hogan brought with him. Like when Hogan left WWF, and then he had signed with WCW after doing Tropic Thunder. There was like 4 or 5, like a handful of like friends that like Hogan brought with him. Hacksaw was one of them. Of course, Brother Brutai at the time was one of them. And there was like the Nasty Boys, and I think Public Enemy were like the other ones. Or Earthquake came along with them from WWF. And he got these really ridiculous contracts, but never actually used them the right way.
So this match is kind of a throwaway. Again, another trash match, which got the Giant into it with a random NFL player. But in our last podcast, in the Judgment Day 2000, which you can go find on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube, I made the comment like, why could the Giant, Big Show, Paul White ever keep his saliva in his mouth? So watching when he's talking, I'm watching for it and I'm like, oh, he's doing a pretty good job. And then you just see this like shower come out, and I'm like, well, so from day one, he's been juicy mouthed.
Looking back in the totality of his career, even with him, I guess he's playing more of a pivotal role backstage at AEW now. But is it safe to say that like Paul White's general career is a slight bust?
I wouldn't say it's a bust. I think he surfed on his dad's coffin, which says something. You know, I wouldn't say it's a bust. I think he's had a Hall of Fame career, but I think a lot of it
of heel and face turns, maybe.
I mean, I can't even keep up with how many of those there were, but he was
underutilized. Fine, not a bust, but underutilized for his size and the true talent he could have had.
Right. I think he could, like, too late in his career did they try to make him like an Andre the Giant kind of showcase, where when he was there, it was going to be something to see. I think they tried to do that too late in his career, but I think he was more talented than Andre.
Oh, absolutely. He was. Well, I don't know if you remember this part about his debut. As far as the WCW side goes, I don't know. This is part of the one thing I remember as a kid vividly was that his storyline origin was he was coming to avenge his dad, Andre the Giant, from the loss at WrestleMania 3 from Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that was the thing. But it was crazy though, Art, watching him in WCW. He was super athletic. Like, he was lean. He could go. Like, not 7 foot. There's not another 7-footer I know that would get up on the top rope and do a missile drop kick. This is how he moved back in the day. And for what it's worth, Eric Bischoff's going on to say that, like, you know, he can only draw to a certain extent because of his size and the way he didn't want to learn the business. He kind of just left a lot of his, he kind of walked around kind of like an Ayrton because he was so big at the time. But then, like, you go to see, like, most of his career in WWF, and it's so much wasted potential that could have been there. Like, he's a big guy, and he's still, like, he's pretty athletic even for, like, his feud with, like, Mark Henry. Like, those two big men bumping meat and wrecking rings and stuff, those were fun, entertaining matches, but, like, there was nothing, like, that kind of carried over to make me remember a lot of his career. Like, it's just, like, he was there, he was mid-card, he had a couple of pushes here and there, and then he was kind of gone.
So from now on, if you say bumping meat again, I'm gonna beep it out.
Big man bumping.
Which was the original name for this podcast.
It's wasted. It was so much potential.
Well, damn it! now that that's out there, somebody's gonna steal it. So way to go for that. So I
just buy the trademarks and buy the websites. That way, no matter what anybody's looking up, it's coming straight here, baby.
That's right.
How are you feeling? Too sweet.
All right, so let's give our ratings for the Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Giant. So I gave it a 1.23 because it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't not terrible. It wasn't the worst we had seen tonight, so I think that kind of gave it a
no, it wasn't. It was a match. So I would have given it a I would have given it a 1.35, but I forgot that the Giant used to do this move where, like, he gets you the turnbuckle and he gets in front of me and goes boom. You remember that?
Yeah.
So, that was just, like, oh man, I forgot you did that. 1.3.
Listen, so going back historically and
I feel
looking
like I
at the
almost broke my
numbers.
chair doing that, by the way.
Seeing that the main event was announced on Thursday, and if I remember the way that the Georgia Dome was sold out already, and they had announced this match after the fact, I have to say this is the reason why everybody sold out to Georgia Dome in the first place. So this automatically gets 5 stars.
No.
So you think this was going to be the main event? Or what?
This was match of the night, Art. You cannot fight me on this, sir. I'm just saying.
Fight. You think this probably could have been the main event, but that's crazy. Yeah, because like they would have announced that they were going to be there months and before.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they announce, "Oh, I'm gonna fight you for the title."
I'm just saying.
Maybe
There had to be a reason that Georgia Dome sold out so quickly, because it wasn't. This was announced after the fact. We're just adding to. Sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Listen, it's 5-star match. You're not fighting me on this one. I'm tired.
Speaking of 5-star matches, next up we have Jim the Anvil Neidhart versus Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh man, Jim Neidhart.
Honestly, I really like Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and I think he was underutilized everywhere. I think he was underrated. I think he was one of those guys that will always be associated with Bret Hart in the Hart Foundation. I think he's underrated.
Yeah, he was always one of the big men that can still move. I always appreciated like him. For what it's worth, Vader. They were bigger guys that can still have entertaining matches with people smaller than them and still be able to be agile for their size. Especially when it was the Hart Foundation. I always remember their matches together when they were a tag team and how much fun they had out there, just moving around the ring. And then just to be eventually be pigeonholed into the lower mid card, he was truly underutilized.
Yeah. George, what'd you think about the Anvil?
I like Neidhart, and I'm trying to. When he came out, it reminded me how confident I told you guys. Oh yeah, Natalia follows me on Twitter. And when I go to prove it, I'm go, "Oh, what happened?" She used to follow me.
I'm just gonna clip this and send it to her on Twitter and be like, "Hey, we're fans."
Hey, she might. She probably will feel bad and then follow.
She'll be like, "Oh, look at these poor guys. Gee,
We're trying. Oh, look at them. Bless their heart.
it's like make a wish."
But yeah,
Wish
that
granted.
his entrance the whole time. Jimmy Neidhart was entering was like the whole reminded me of that conversation. I was like,
All right, so next up we have the NWO Wolfpack, which was Sting and Luger versus Kidman and Sick Boy. What the fuck is a sick boy?
I think his thing was he was always sniffling and sneezing like he had just forever allergies for a while. And then somewhere between like the first year of the Ravens flocked together, he just completely forgot they had allergies and was just like, fuck it, I'm just here.
That's the greatest story of a character name ever. Be like, man, that guy has sniffles just all the time. He's always sick. That's a sick boy.
There you go. That's money.
I didn't like. I don't like Sting. I don't like Sting in the Wolfpack.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, is that what we're talking about? I was just.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, he looks
because this is the match. This is the match with Kidman. I like Kidman. Where did he come from?
Where did he go?
No, where did he come from?
Cotton Eye Joe?
His mom's vagina. For starters.
No, because
I can't cover the other like 19 years before that, but then he showed up in WCW, and then here we go.
Well, that's what I'm like. I just remember like seeing him when I was a kid, and for some reason I felt like he was gonna be a big time wrestler, and then all of a
Oh,
sudden,
he still made a big time, all right. He was married to Tori Wilson.
wait, what?
My God.
Yeah, he was
What?
married to Tori Wilson.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he won. So here's my question. Who gave Luger permission to wrestle in just a pair of black Guess jeans?
I mean, it's an
Hogan.
upgrade from the regular black trunks he used to always wear.
But like, I mean, it really kind of goes to kind of the grand scheme of the whole WCW at this time, because I really look at this as the beginning of the downward spiral of WCW, where Luger just doesn't even care. He's like, we're just wearing a pair of like black jeans, goes out, has like a 30-second match, and like no point to the match, no nothing, just like, hey, we're here, we're on the show, we get paid, woo, all right, and then we're done.
Well, I don't know, like, because after, I mean, nowadays, how many other people wrestle in either jorts or
Hey, yeah, Sick Boy was in
jeans?
shorts.
Well, so was Saturn. I mean, there were a lot of guys wearing jorts.
Yeah,
Like it kind of went with them. Like that was what they did. Luger was known for like the black trunks and white boots or whatever it was. And
well, he's edgy now, Art. It's part of it.
Yeah, now he's supposed to be raging against the machine.
Yeah.
Killing in the name of.
Grown out a beautiful black beard without being like a knockoff version of Hulk Hogan, he would have done it to be more edgier, but it didn't work out. So he's going to be a rebel and wrestle in his Guess jeans.
All right. I guess. All right. So we are going to take one more commercial break before we get into the main event, and we will be back in just a minute.
Leave Luger alone.
Hey, Too Hard, Too Fast podcast, a lighthearted, thought-provoking comedic podcast where we talk about society and culture topics through the lives and experiences of my guests. But that's what it says on paper. The important thing to remember is that Too Hard, Too Fast, we don't check facts. Something you can check is for Too Hard, Too Fast podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and any other podcast platform that you use or don't use. Use them all. Watch us all on all of it.
So I went ahead and I did rate the Wolfpack Kidman Sick Boy match, so I gave it a 0.49 star.
I'm judging the way you said rate.
I judge the way you say vodka, so we're even.
Hi. What are we doing? I forgot. Hey, follow me on Threads. Too Hard, Too Fast podcast.
We just came back from your commercial.
So, I think he just had a Booker T. He had a Booker T moment. He called me the N-word.
Listen, everybody gets one Booker T moment.
I forgot what match that was.
I mean, if you're gonna make me rate the match, I guess I'll give it like a 1. As in, for the 1 minute it was actually on my TV screen.
Okay.
So,
George, what do you rate the?
I'm gonna give it a 1.2.
All right.
Me.
We are down to the main event. Goldberg, Hollywood, Hulk Hogan,
Hollywood Scum Hogan,
NWO, which they actually made the fact to mention that it was the WCW NWO World Championship. So my first question on here is why did Goldberg randomly have to have security follow him to the ring? He didn't earlier in the night. He didn't earlier in the night.
My better question is, why is security always like 10 times smaller than Goldberg every time they come out? Like, I never did understand. I was like, oh, look, it's a badass. So he has to have security. But I'm like, anything if somebody wanted to fuck with Goldberg, security's going to get blown away in the wind because they're all about this big compared to Goldberg in stature. And I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous.
I don't know if my memory's just that bad because I didn't watch WCW. I thought that at some point Goldberg had gotten jumped in the back on his way to the ring, and so that's why they started putting security with him. But on
I
this,
think that was the rumor, or that because I remember that. I remember something like that.
is that one of those what is it called, the Mandela effect?
Disney tells, yeah, like there was like it never happened on Disney.
Disney. Yes, you're right. It never happened on Disney.
No, there's some Disney stuff where it's like that was never on Disney, but it was on Disney.
Right. Well, that's like I remember them like that part of the story, but earlier in the night, Goldberg comes out to face Scott Hall. He comes out by himself. This match, he's got all the security. So I don't know why he randomly got a bunch of security guards.
I didn't think about that. I didn't even notice that.
Gotta watch that.
Maybe they checked for the night finally cleared and the security that they hired finally decided to show up.
That's Ted Turner check. You know that boy cleared like 3 days ago. So I found it weird during the match. So neither one of these guys can really put on a good match, right? And we don't expect that from them. We expect the side headlock. We expect the Hogan in the corner, like doing all that. And so randomly, Hogan takes off his belt and just starts whooping the shit out of Goldberg. And the ref's like, come on, don't do that. Come on.
Stop that. That's not nice.
Which I feel like it was a missed opportunity because Hogan could have, here, fantasy booking. Hogan just bam, hits him, and yells at the ref, disqualify me, bam, bam, trying to get the ref to disqualify him, right? Because then he retains the title, match is over. And the ref's like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, missed opportunity because later on they get outside the ring and he starts hitting him with a chair. Same thing.
Yeah.
Like, so this randomly became a no disqualification match.
It wasn't announced for the show for shit. But like it did have a kind of a weird effect as the match kept going along. And then the ending was even weirder, how that broke down, which we'll talk about that here in a second. But
yeah, well, there was a weird moment where Hogan kept dropping the leg. He dropped it like 3 times, and the announcers
missed.
Well, the announcers don't say anything about it. No, he hits him, and the announcers don't say anything about him dropping the leg.
Here's my take with like everything WCW. Like, do you guys remember ever having to put on some kind of presentation involving maybe other people or not? And day of, you have nothing put together, nothing concrete. You have an idea. Let's just run with the idea and see what happens.
Yeah.
This is what I feel like WCW was mostly doing. And this is what I feel like.
No, that's a perfect analogy. Like, it was like, okay, Monday night, Goldberg's going over Hogan for the title. What can we throw in front of it to fill up 3 hours?
Yeah. He's like, why is Hogan always wearing a weightlifting belt? He ain't doing squats. So he's like ripping it off and smacking somebody over. It's like, okay, we're not this wasn't planned. He improvised. Let's run with it.
Like, Hogan comes into the ring with the weightlifting belt on, and it's like, okay, I know what you're gonna do with it. I know what you're doing. Like, it's not a mystery. I don't know. Like, it was weird that they didn't even play up the ref like potentially disqualifying Hogan. And to me, that kind of took away from everything. He really could have, they could have played that up like him trying to get himself disqualified, and they didn't.
Just booking on the fly. It's a Bill O'Reilly moment. It's just fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah,
Let's
just keep
do it live.
going. We got 30 more minutes on TNT.
Yeah, I mean, the match wasn't terrible. It was, I mean, kind of what you expected. And now, I mean, we look at this stuff in hindsight. I don't know. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst match I've seen. Big Show versus Shane McMahon, but it wasn't definitely the best for the two guys. So, I think this is one, Lathan, you would agree on this, that without sound, it's kind of a trash match.
Absolutely. Like, the crowd makes this match what it is. And that's the one thing that always resonates with me when it comes to these type of matches. Like, Hulk Hogan, and for what it's worth, as much as I give Hulk Hogan shit for most of his career, he's actually a good worker. Like, he's done, like, he used to, when he wrestled in New Japan, it's some rare footage, but he's actually like taking bumps and actually showing that he is talented when actually put to the pressure of actually having a real wrestling match and being technical. But like, it's just something about him at his age at this point and things like that that just kind of like, he's just calling it in to just make the money for the show and then collecting his check and getting the fuck out. About the speculation of him booking himself in this match at the last hour to actually make sure that he got a bigger paycheck because he was on that show. Because it, like, realistically, that's when, like, Goldberg even says, like, he didn't know he was wrestling on Monday Nitro until he watched it on Thursday night on Thunder when they announced it. And so, like, there's always that rumor and innuendo about, like, was this really booked the way it's supposed to be booked? And so you could tell through the match there's a lot of spontaneity into it. And nobody really talked to each other about how this is supposed to go. It's just, all we know is that at the end of this, Goldberg's going to be holding 2 titles. It fucking sucked.
I wouldn't even say it sucked, but it was, I guess, with the hype just seems like it should have, I mean, it should have been more like, I watched it like literally probably 15 minutes before we started the podcast recording. And I was like, shit, I need to watch my time. And I paused it, and it was like 11 minutes from where I paused it when the match was first starting to like the end with the celebration and everything. So the match was only like 8 minutes.
Yeah, because there was about 3 minutes of celebration at the end where they cut it out.
George, what you think?
I didn't. That's pretty cool. That 8 minutes of a match for such a big a match. That's crazy, because this should have been a pay-per-view match. We've all talked about it. We've all said it. It should have been a pay-per-view match, or at least something that like would have been built for a longer thing. At least nowadays, it would have probably taken 3 months to finish. And I honestly thought the match overall was pretty good. Like, it was, again, not one of those spear, jackhammer, we're done kind of stuff. There was some theatrics. Hogan is perfect theatrics kind of guy.
I think one of the things that took me out of the match, it was the way that they booked the ending. It wasn't necessarily like you had to have that type of ending where like David Doss Page comes out after Kurt Hennig comes out, and they have no actual relevance to the match at all.
Yeah.
And don't even play a role in like the actually getting any interference. And it was just like, okay, here comes this guy. Then Karl Malone comes out of nowhere out of the crowd again to slam dunk on your ass. And then you turn back to the ring all of a sudden, and then there's a spear jackhammer, and then we're going home.
Like, it could have been good. It would have been better if like the match would have just happened and then the Diamond Dallas Page stuff would have happened. Like that
Yeah.
would have meant more. Like it's just like the match happened, it's over, and then after that, oh, we're beating Hogan up for
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
match.
Or just not even put him in there. Like I've already seen enough DDP and Carmelone's big ass truck. Like they could have just ended clean just the way it was. And then of course, like they made the reference of like the first double champion for WCW and undefeated streak is still going along. And so like at the time when you're watching it as a 14-year-old, like or as a teenager in general, the excitement of the moment is there, but then you look back at it and it's in totality. And it's like there really wasn't nothing that made this any different than any other of these matches from the night for the most part.
I want to take this opportunity to apologize to absolutely fucking nobody.
Oh man.
I look back, you look back on this match and they could have built this, but here's the kind of the other side of that coin, right? So say you build this match for months, right? Say you build it, even if you build it for the next pay-per-view after Bash at the Beach, you're only going to get 8 to 10 minutes out of these guys. So I don't know. I mean, you're not going to get a 20, 25-minute match that's going to build suspense. It's going to have a good, back and forth. It's going to be what it was. And so do you put that on free TV or do you put that on a pay-per-view that you build for a month and then you get 8 minutes out of it? Like,
and also, is it believable that Hogan could be Goldberg? Age difference, body difference, without any interference or anything like that. Like, yeah, I can see that happening with some interference. But like Hogan dropping a leg on Goldberg and that's how you win.
he dropped it 3 times and Goldberg kicked out. So it's like, well, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're trying to make Goldberg look as strong as possible, but at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got this undefeated person. Like, how do you defeat that person? That's even like when it was like Brock Lesnar nowadays or Roman Reigns. Like, how do you let that next person go over when you built a machine that cannot be beat?
Right.
With a cattle prod, you motherfucker.
Man, you're not wrong. So guys, let's give our ratings for this match. We're going to start with Lathan because he's going to chime in real quick anyway.
Get fucked.
I'm hoping later.
It was so to put into the nostalgia and the historical event that it was. I'll generously give it a 3.5.
Oh, okay. George.
Okay, just how like Scott Hall's match was longer than the spear jackhammer done. This is even better because it lasted a lot longer. It had a little bit of a story built to it. I'm gonna go 3.75.
Okay. Y'all
It
are
was good enough. It had a lot to go. It wasn't just like it could have gone because it could have gone both 2 different ways. It could have gone Hogan goes out there, cheats, wins, done. And it could have gone Goldberg does this thing and done, and it could have been crap. But they built it. They built it like a pay-per-view match, and they made it last like a pay-per-view match.
So with that, would it have made more sense? So Goldberg, Hogan come out, Hogan cheats, retains, and then Thursday or next Monday, whatever.
Not Thursday, because who's watching Thunder? Nobody.
Right, it would make more sense to do it
Me,
on
motherfucker, I got basic cable.
Sorry, this is coming from the guy that doesn't watch NXT.
I learned my lesson.
Would it have made sense? So let's say Hogan cheats and wins, right? So you get through Bash at the Beach, and then on Monday, JJ Dillon comes out and says, you know what? No, the match, because of this interference, blah, 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 at the next pay-per-view, Hogan will take on Goldberg again for the championship. I don't know, in a steel cage where nobody can interfere, or where, everybody is barred from ringside.
Would have been a lot better. Would have also, at that time, would have been less predictable. Now, if that happens, I'm like, okay. Like now, if somebody loses a title on a Monday night or a Friday night, I'm all for it, because like that never happens.
Right.
So I'm all for it. So, but if that would have happened back then, like they say, okay, no, we're gonna settle this at the pay-per-view in a cage match or whatever, or no holds bar, that would have like built it up even more.
Yeah.
That would have been good.
Even with that being said, I gave it a 2.89. It was entertaining. It was good, but I knew what was coming. And I didn't expect much. And maybe that is why I thought it was good, was because I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of Goldberg and Hogan. That's kind of how I feel. But with that, it takes us to
before all the conclusion.
Oh,
I really enjoyed the fact that like in WCW, for some reason, like I don't know if they allowed it or what it was, but the fact that they were throwing shit into the ring, like I thought that was cool. Like I don't want for some people to throw and somebody gets hurt. Definitely don't want that. But like a lot of stuff that they were maybe like they were like,
all right, part about that, George?
Toilet paper stuff. What's that?
I think you want to know the most ironic part about that? When they would come to town, they would have before they would have like the pre-match rules, and rule number 2 was don't throw stuff in the ring. And like it was just like one of those dumb moments where everyone's like, I'm gonna fucking do it. And just starts
well, I'm seeing drinks flying, and I'm like, those are expensive. What are you doing?
Yeah.
right? I better not see that $13 beer getting thrown. And nowadays they're like, well, we're not going to give you the bottle cap because we don't want you to throw it in the ring. I was like, the bottle that you just sold me is heavier.
Good. I'm glad you're holding that because I'm going to throw this.
Yeah.
Well, he's just like throwing all this like toilet paper. Like, who's holding on to that? Like,
Yeah.
who's getting in with it? just taking it out of the bathroom. Some poor guy's in there pooping, and he's like, "Where's the toilet paper?"
Every match, he's got like one row to throw. I'm like, do I throw it now? Do I throw it now? Who went too loud? Do I throw it?
Gotta get the perfect timing down.
You got to throw it with everyone else so they don't know who did it. Oh, well, guys, that brings us to the end of the show. So let's give it our overall.
F-. Get fucked.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I overall I give it 2.5 stars. There was a lot of filler, but some of the filler wasn't bad. So I'm gonna give the overall show 2.5.
I'm gonna go overall 2.3. The tail end was better. Whatever. I'll throw a toilet paper.
George is all about the backside entertainment.
The show wasn't a full F-. It was a good show. I'll genuinely give it a 2.8. There's
Look,
a part of me
it's good enough for me to throw a toilet paper at the ring during a pandemic where there's no toilet paper. This is how much I like it.
Listen, you bought a bidet. We get it. You don't need this extra toilet paper. You just throw wherever you want to. Just throw this money away. Just fuck it, George.
Yeah, I took a poop in my seat. Here's my toilet paper.
You just walked outside and threw it for old time's sake.
I brought
Yeah.
this with me.
2-ply, motherfucker.
I knew where
man.
I was coming.
Watching it, trying to be analytical, I caught myself being more nostalgic, especially when I was watching it with my son. And thinking back, I was like, yeah, I remember like this and this happening, and then like remembering Raw at the same time going on, and like what was going on that TV. And so we had like some really funny shit conversations. And so then he went to sleep. I watched it with the analytical mind. I was like, oh, this is a wet dog fart of a show. But like, I mean, if it still captures the same memories and makes me get back into the moment again, even for a minute, I'm like, it's pretty entertaining.
I agree. Well, guys, so normally what we would be doing at this point is spinning the wheel for next month's topic. However, we will not be doing that this month, because I had somebody contact me on Facebook at a Ducking Wrestling podcast and make a request for us to cover a show.
Okay.
So Nick Opolowski, who contacted me and asked us to cover his favorite pay-per-view. So for August, we will be covering In Your House, Canadian Stampede, 1997.
Sounds like we're getting canceled.
So with that, everybody, I am the Rowdy Texan Abroad.
Wait. No. Wait, is that WWE or is that and WC? I missed it.
In Your House, 1997 Canadian Stampede was like almost like a tribute show they did to Stampede Wrestling in Canada. So there's a lot of the Hart family, and actually all of the Hart family is there. So
Natty.
Oh, man, that main event was the clusterfuck.
Natty's like
Of
12.
Harts.
So
Okay, never mind. But is this
You can see,
Is
you know,
this-
like you even see Natalia in the ring and Tyson Kidd and
David Hart Smith.
Davey. Yeah.
With that being said, guys, always a pleasure. Lathan has to pull out the bicep, damn it.
Sorry.
Guys, thank y'all for being part of this. We really enjoy it. Everybody at home, thank you for listening. Go check out the YouTube video, because you'll see a lot of funny stuff that you're not gonna see on the audio side, because yeah, you can figure that one out. But Rowdy Texan Abroad, Mr. Too Hard, Too Fast, George.
There's a lot of weird things you can see on the video.
We got Mr. Lathan Hall over here on this side. I'll figure this out one day. There he is. Thank y'all very much, and we will see y'all in August for In Your House, Canadian Stampede.